Welcome to Selfish Confidence, a place where we can connect and be real about how hard it is to be your damn self. My name is Jess, and my goal is to help you build confidence and belief in yourself to live any life path you want, even if it's unconventional. It's time to flip off societal pressures and connect with women who've also felt on the outside by their life choices. We're here to encourage you to grab the mic and speak your truth. I know it can be scary, but we're in this together. Let's get started. Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of the Selfish Confidence Podcast. It is a really fun week here because we have someone very special here who I have wanted to have come on the podcast for a while to speak all about some really awesome topics, including gut health. It's finally happening. Hey, Kelly, what's up?
Hey, Jess. It is such a pleasure. I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
I'm so glad you're here. And just to give everyone who's listening a little background, because we like to be real here, we just recorded a podcast for Kelly, so we're just buzzing. At least I'm buzzing a little on energy. Reapplied my deodorant, had a pee, and we're ready to get back into recording this episode for you. Kelly said she didn't have to reapply. She didn't sweat yet, so let's make her sweat.
Let's sweat. Let's do
it. So that's on brand for you. So can you tell us about you, Kelly, and where you got started with your story?
Yeah. Oh, geez. Loaded question.
I know, man.
Yeah. So who am I? Well, I'm just this multifaceted person, I feel like. Currently I am a full-time school teacher in third grade. I have a podcast as well, Listening to Your Gut, where we focus on the literal and figurative meaning of that phrase. I am a holistic nutritionist, currently working on getting certification for personal training. I'm writing a couple books.
Wait, did you just say a couple books?
couple books. Well, girl. I'm doing a collab book, and then I'm writing a children's book that will be part of a series, a children's book series on health topics that just really need to be out there. So I'm working on that. And my gosh, I feel like every day I'm so incredibly blessed to wake up and do what I'm doing, but also to have, where my story comes from, to have woken up and really stepped into who I was supposed to be. Because for the longest time, and I say this quite often, I closeted myself. I didn't want to show myself to the world. I felt uncomfortable. I felt severely lack of confidence, no confidence in myself. And I, at one point, just didn't even want to be here, right? It got that bad that I just felt like I was ready to give up on life. But I guess my story really starts after that, right? Like when the real Kelly decided to show herself to the world, which was about 3 years ago. I decided enough's enough. I had lost my mom back in 2012 from colon cancer, stage 4. She got diagnosed about a year prior to that, and she was my world. And I really wrapped myself up in her in terms of she kind of knew me so well that I felt like I didn't need to know myself, and I realized, a couple of years ago during the pandemic that I didn't know myself, and that I didn't like that, and that I didn't like waking up and rinsing and repeating the same thing every single day, and just really being like a zombie through life. So I decided to change that. And I don't say that lightly. It's not like I just woke up and said, and here we go, flip the switch on and we're doing this thing. But it was a slow, steady progression of just incorporating new things, trying new things, to see what I liked, to see what really lit me up. And through that, I was able to really put my voice out there. I got really involved in health and wellness. I had always had a knack for that, but through the pandemic, being home and teaching from home, I wasn't moving around a lot. And I noticed that my gut issues had picked up. I've always had chronic gut issues since, probably age 5, maybe even before. It's so far back that it's hard for me to remember, but essentially my whole life. And I was like, you know what? I don't want to keep going to doctors because I don't want to keep going to doctors and hearing, well, take this, or there's nothing wrong with you. I don't know what you're talking about. And so I decided to dive into the holistic route. And, through that, I worked on and I'm still healing myself holistically. But I was able to heal my gut issues through a natural approach and through also working with other functional medicine practitioners and holistic practitioners. And so I went back to school, got certified as a holistic nutritionist, healed myself, and then said, why don't I spread that to everybody else? Like, why not share that with everybody else? If I can do it and I'm just this regular average person, why not show other people that they can do it too? And that kind of is where my story took off, really.
Wow, Kelly. Okay, cool. I'm super into health and into nutrition too. So I love hearing that because I'm like, okay, this is going to be fun.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because you do this alongside teaching full time. So you teach and you do this. How did you manage to figure out that this was the path that you wanted to go with a side hustle, with a business for you? And how do you find the time to do both?
Yeah, great question.
You're like, oh, right.
Wow. Yeah. It's still, to be quite honest with you, it's still a work in progress in all of the aspects of what you just asked, in that I didn't know that I wanted to do what I'm doing holistic nutrition wise, as a career, or whether it was going to be a hobby at the beginning. I didn't know. But through my learning, through my education on a variety of health topics and healing myself, that kind of became an option for me. I was like, you could help other women and make this, not necessarily unless you want it to be, you could make this, a part-time or a full-time. I decided and have consistently decided to keep it a part-time passion of mine to help and support women. Could that change? Of course. I'm never, nothing in my life is ever set in stone. It's always flexible and open to change. I think that's the best way to live your life, is just always be open to opportunities. And and so I guess the other part of your question was, I've already forgotten. My goodness, here we go. What was the other part of the question?
Making time for it all. See, our brains are a little mushy because we already did this one. So making time, like, how do you make the time for both?
Yeah. How do I make time for both? Well, during the school year, there is limited time, right? I mean, being a school teacher, I've got to be there before 8:00 and I'm not done until almost 4. So that leaves a small chunk of time because I get up early in the morning, but I am definitely not working on anything of that sort in the morning. I'm really pouring into myself before I leave so that I can be the best version of myself when I get there. But when I come home, that's when I dive into it. So it's really just a couple of hours in the evening. And then, of course, the weekends are a little bit more flexible, but it's during the school year, it's very limited. In the summer, now that I'm home at the time of this recording, I am blessed to be home and to have such a flexible schedule that I can really pour into this all day long if I choose to. So yeah, it's really just been finding pockets of time to fit it in. But I've always said this because it's true. I don't look at what I'm doing as, these part-time jobs, if we call it that, or these side passions. I don't look at them as work, because they're not, because I absolutely freaking love what I'm doing. And, sometimes people will say, like, how do you show up consistently? Like, how do you do it? I'm not forcing myself to show up on social media. I know you don't do that either. Like, if you don't feel called or compelled to get on, you don't. I don't subscribe to that. And if you do, you. That's great. But if I'm going to show up, it's because I want to be there. And if I don't show up, it's because I need to not be. Does that mean, that I'm on there a lot or not a lot? I actually am on there quite a bit, but it's because I feel called to be on there. It's just the way that it works out, is that I am on there quite a bit, and it's not a forced thing. So, it just truly lights me up to connect with women, to support women. And I mean, gosh, it's brought me to you, right? So that's just a blessing in and of itself.
I love that concept of it too, because sometimes there's still a lot of guilt sometimes when you don't show up, at least for me. And
yeah.
but it's true. I only show up when I want to. You don't want to see me half-ass show up. And I know it's the same for you, Kelly, because like I did that for so long. I only want to bring my truest version of myself. So I love when, especially when someone's working full time too, and then you add more work on top of that. And I know, Kelly, you're a projector too, human design gals. And that it's so important that it's only when it lights you up. Because if not, like what a waste of time, right? Like there's a lot of working in your life. Like what a waste of time if it's not lighting you up. So I love that that's your mindset with it. And I also love that you focus on the whole person in the healing process. You talk about the mind, the body, and the soul, which is freaking cool. So if someone's feeling overwhelmed with this process, because the whole person is actually still a lot of stuff, where would you have them start in the healing process?
Yeah, I love that. And you and I talked about this at length in the episode that we just did on my podcast, but that's where I would start, which is what I'm about to share, is finding you, right? Is knowing you. And that can look a lot of different ways. If you don't know, what irks you or what makes you tick, it's starting there. It might look like you determining what foods that you're eating make you feel like poop, right? It might look like you trying different movements to see what you like and what you don't like. It might be you going out and hanging out with friends and then spending a night at home and seeing like, where do I feel currently right now most comfortable? Do I like being out in a large group or maybe a small group, or do I like really just nesting and being at home, quite a bit? I love nesting and being at home, but there's also this urge, like, especially, when we go to these big conferences, I'm like, I feel like I'm a whole new being. I feel like I like take on Keisha's energy when I'm there, and I'm like, hello world, let me talk to everyone and everything. So yeah, I think sometimes I can do the broad spectrum of things. But I think it really just at the core, it begs you to find more of you. And when you're focusing on healing, you've got to know why you're doing that, right? If you're going through the healing process just to look a certain way, or to be in a certain size clothing because you feel like that's what society deems worthy, let me tell you that is going to, one, not work out in your favor. You're going to be miserable. And I don't care if you get to that size or not, you're not going to maintain it. That's not what healing is about. Healing is truly about knowing yourself, loving yourself to the core, because until you are able to do that, the gut issues that I had, the brain fog, the fatigue, none of that will go away until you've dealt with yourself. And I speak that from experience, because being someone who did all the quote unquote things, changed my diet, I moved my body more frequently, I did more things instead of hibernating, which is not a bad thing to do, but I got myself out there and did things out of my comfort zone. That stuff alone didn't help me to heal. What really helped me to heal, what was holding me back, was the shame that I kept inside me of feeling like I wasn't enough, and of feeling like I was never going to be able to heal, and of feeling like, why isn't this happening faster? Why can't I just be healed? Right? Healing takes a long time, especially if you want to go the holistic route, the natural route to things. It takes a long time. And we don't ever heal from everything in our life. It's just not possible. But when I'm talking about, specifically right now, in this case, my gut issues, things didn't get better until I started to let go of the preconceived notions of how I thought that was supposed to look, and just letting my body be comfortable in my body and allowing myself to feel the feels, because I held on to and squashed those feelings for so long. And until I let those go and truly felt them, that's when things started to change.
Yeah. I am like you. I want it to be done faster.
We all do.
And knowing, like, of course, the natural route, of course, is going to take more time. So I love that you pinpoint that, especially in that healing process, because we all want it. We all want Amazon Prime results. And unfortunately, that does not work, especially when it comes to your gut health. I'm like you too. I have a lot of gut issues. So I find that interesting because, we want it done tomorrow. Like, I don't want diarrhea every day. Like, let's change that right now, right? Yeah. So you said you had gut issues starting from even as early as age 5, which is really young. So how can someone pinpoint the root cause of their discomfort and their digestion? Like, when did you know that you needed to do something more since you've had them since you were so young?
Yeah, I mean, I knew the reason I say that I knew from such a young age is because I can just remember the feelings that I had as I ate, but also just seeing myself, in pictures and remembering kind of the lifestyle that I lived, which was very sedentary. I was not someone in my early age, 5 or so, that liked to get out and do a lot of physical activity. I was a lot more sitting and doing things, which is not a bad thing, but I also really didn't eat very well. My main diet was ice cream, pizza, mac and cheese, and hot dogs.
I do love a good hot dog, though.
Yeah. Yep. No, I know. And there's nothing wrong with any of those things. But when you are eating those day in and day out, and there's, no variation to that, I was extremely, if you couldn't tell by that, extravagant list there, which is really not that extravagant. I didn't eat very healthy, but I was very picky. And didn't even want to try broccoli or whatever, any good for you stuff. I didn't have the palate for it, but didn't also have the patience for even trying it to see what it could be like. So, I don't want to like shame my parents, because to no fault of their own, it was me that didn't want to eat those things. I was given the opportunity, a great variety of things. I just was very stubborn and very picky in my young age and didn't want to, eat any of those things. But I guess through having those experiences of eating those things, and then just feeling kind of how it made me feel, I felt a lot of times like I was not digesting my food, like it would just sit there. A lot of that I realized came with stress naturally that I put on myself from a very young age. Again, not from my parents. It was totally me in my own head of like, you need to be this way. You need to be this certain way. You need to appear this certain way. And because of that perfectionist tendency that I had to strive and go, because that's what I saw modeled for me, not only in like a family aspect, but also just in society. That was what I saw portrayed, and thought like, well, I guess that's what I need to be, because that's what everybody's doing. That really took a massive toll on my overall health, which then impacted my gut health. And so, I got all the way into my full-time job, which I'm currently at, teaching. And I was about probably 25, 26, so a couple of years into teaching, and started to feel these symptoms again of just like not processing my food, just felt bloated all the time. And I was like, my God, like here it is again, rearing its ugly head. What are we going to do about this? Because every time I go to the doctor, I get the same runaround. Nothing's wrong. Let's do some tests. Oh, nothing's wrong according to those tests. Let's, put you on a medication, or, and I didn't want any of that. And I also didn't feel like I was being listened to. It was like, no, do you not understand? This is how I'm feeling. Like, please help me. So, I through all of that, through my schooling, going back to school and getting the certification, and learning the signs and symptoms of like, okay, so you're having stress. Well, guess what? Stress stops your digestion. Like it literally halts it. Okay, so whatever you ate, that stuff's just sitting there waiting for you to pull yourself out of that stressful state so that it can start its processing again. It's like It's like the laundry. It's like the dryer, right? And you sometimes, I don't know if you're crazy like me, but sometimes you walk in there and you're like, wow, look at that tumbling. It stops its tumbling process and it just sits there until you press the button again to get it going. And
what a great analogy.
Right. That's the way I think of it. And so, yeah, I realized not right away. It's not like, again, I woke up and was like, wow, it's like the laundry. But through, my schooling and my own seeing what was working, what was not, I realized, gosh, when I am in a better mindset, a better mental state, my stomach seems to feel better. I seem to have less bloating. I seem to have less indigestion. I seem to not have the constipation or the diarrhea. I seem to have less gas, right? I mean, because for a while, whoa, that was like, I felt super embarrassed because flatulence was the name of the game for me. It was like all the time. So yeah, welcome to my world. That's what that was like. It was very uncomfortable, very embarrassing. But all that to say, I think coming back to the original question, me and my wordy mouth, is it comes back to the feeling. Like if you don't feel comfortable in your body, whether you feel like the food's just sitting there, or you feel, maybe the brain fog, the fatigue is setting in, maybe that you are stressed, like you can feel it in your body, right? You're often tensed, or like it takes a lot for you to relax your shoulders or just relax your body and sit, right? That's a sign, right? Those are the signs. And it's, for me, it took me a long time to come to grips with that, because I was sitting in this body and looking from the outside in, right? And thinking like, I see you, but why is nothing working? Until I was actually able to sit inside myself and feel those feels of like, wow, this is what it feels like to be stressed. My whole body's tense and I can't let go, right? Or, gosh, my neck has been stiff all week. Well, that's probably because I'm holding a majority of the stress in my neck. That's typically where I hold it, right? Or my back is hurting. Well, that's another place that I hold stress, and a lot of us hold stress. So when I'm stressed, it's easy for me to pull my back out because of that. And so you just start to pick up on those cues and clues of like, okay, something's a little bit off. Let me tend to myself. Let me see what's actually lying below the surface. And that's a lot of times where our food sensitivities come from, is because our body shuts off, and then it's really hard for us to process. But then we also develop these sensitivities to certain foods because some of these foods are not super bland. And so our bodies are like, whoa, you shut me off. And now I've got all this to process and it's just too much. I just can't. So now I'm going to throw up the red flags and be like, yep, I don't want any more of that. Please don't give me that anymore. And it shows up as a sensitivity. There was a time when I could only eat 4 foods. It was absolutely miserable. Absolutely miserable. Am I eating that way anymore? Hell no. But
what were the 4 things? I need to know.
Yeah. Yeah. I could eat kale. I could eat shredded. Well, it could be any carrots, but usually I did shredded so that it was easier to process. Radishes. And then some sort of either like a cabbage or potentially some type of other leafy green. But those were the things that I was on a regular basis consuming because they were super bland. I could mince them up super small, and it took away a lot of the bloating and a lot of the discomfort that I had. So yeah, it was super frustrating to feel like that's all I could eat day in and day out.
Kelly, I feel like you're calling me out over here, and I know you don't mean to. I'm like, oh wait, my shoulders are kind of tense, and I kind of had that back pain all week, and I was like, Kelly, get out of here. But that kind of leads us into the next question, because I know when I'm stressed, my gut health is like flared up. Like I can feel it too. So
yeah.
Can you share a little bit more on if someone is having a stressful time, how can they manage their mountains of stress to feel better with their gut health?
Yeah, you got to find what works for you, right? Because again, we're all each our own unique beings. And so what works for me or what works for Jess may not work for you, right? I know you like to do meditation, and I know you said you're not always consistent with it. I'm not either. I think it's very hard to be consistent with that. But it looks like finding something that makes you feel in a state of calm. So maybe that is, if you have the opportunity or the luxury of getting out and taking a walk around your neighborhood or a local park or area, and it's nice out, maybe it's that, right? Maybe it's just sitting in a chair and taking a couple of breaths, right? Maybe it is listening to some music and dancing to the beat of that music, right? Maybe it's writing down your thoughts. I like to do gratitude journaling, but I'm not someone who is super good at or naturally drawn to just writing my thoughts out. I know you like to do that, and I am envious of that. I will be envious of that to my last days on earth, because I wish I could. And I think I could get there, but I'm not there yet in terms of being able to sit and do that. But, that being said, again, it looks different for everyone, and you're not going to know what that is until you try it. So I would encourage you, if you're listening to this right now, which of course you are. Hello.
Hey, what's up, girl?
Hey, hey, we just hit record. Glad you tuned in. I would encourage you to experiment, because that's what I've done to figure it out for myself. And I'm sure that's what Jess has done to figure out things that help her to bring a sense of calm to her body. So yeah, I guess another thing that I love to do, and not everybody has access, but I have a in-home infrared sauna that's portable. It's not fancy. I know the first thought is
fancy.
Wow, you have like a big, like one of those big like sheds. No, I do not. It does not look like that. Okay. It looks like a little tent, and I go inside there. That's what it looks like. But it is so nice. And it's a dual purpose, because I can go in there and sweat out some toxins and also just do some deep breaths. But I can also play some calming music, and it's just like this Zen moment that I create for myself. So I absolutely love that. But maybe that's not you. And also maybe that's not something you have access to. So I just throw that out there to show you that, like, it can literally look however you want it to. You just have to, what I like to say, trial and error it to help you figure out what works for you. And just know that what may work for you now might not work for you a month from now, a year from now. And that's okay, because our bodies are constantly changing, and what stresses you now may be able to be lifted by what you're currently doing, but you may encounter a new stress down the road that needs something different. And so you're going to have to be willing to figure out what that is, and to work on building that thing into your life when those moments arise, so that you can help yourself get back into that more sense of calm, or what we say, the parasympathetic state of our nervous system.
Okay, this sauna sounds really cool.
I will tell you more about it after we're done.
Okay, that sounds so cool. And I love that you know what it is that helps you to manage your stress. And I know what helps too. I don't always do it. And that is the interesting thing when it comes to your gut health. It's like, do I need to be consistent all the time with my stress management? Or like, can I have a stressful day and like not do anything about it? Huh? What do you think?
Oh, I love that.
I'm like, what do you think, Kelly? That one just came into my head. I'm like, like, do I have to be consistent all the time for my gut health?
Yeah. Well, like everything, the answer is no, you don't need to be consistent, because, and this is going to sound weird, because to me, consistency can look different for so many people, right? Consistency, I think the consistency that I see is you making an effort to do it when feels good for you. I mean, I'm going to be fully transparent, as I always am, but I'm going to say right now, I also, Jess, don't always do it when I should, right? Whether I don't, it's because I don't have access to the thing that I want to use, or in the moment I know I can do it, but I'm just stubborn and I don't want to do it. I mean, we all have our reasons, right? But the consistency piece, that word, I guess, bugs me, not because of this conversation, but it's always made me frustrated to hear that, because you can get yourself out of any situation. You don't have to be consistent with the calming your body. You just have to know how to do it. You have to know that when the time comes and your body needs it, that if you're going to sit there and say, I'm not going to do it, then the result is you're going to feel that way you don't want to feel, right? So to say all that, to say, I guess my answer still is no, you don't have to be consistent, but you're going to pay the price for whatever that discomfort is if you don't act in the moment on whatever's bringing you stress. So I guess it kind of backfires in a way, but I still stand my ground. You don't need to be consistent with your calming methods. You just need to be able to access them in the moment.
Oh yeah. That's a good reminder too. Thank you, because then I feel less bad for not doing all the things that I sometimes feel like I need to do in order to have a healthy gut, right? So I also know when it comes to, as we talk about stress, there's also a big correlation with your gut health and your confidence. So how can they be correlated, and what is it that I need to do in order to have more confidence to take care of my gut health?
Ooh, I love that. That's a juicy question. Woo! All right.
Give me the juice. Come on.
Yeah, let's dive into that one. Well, yeah, I mean, we know that our gut and brain is connected, right? I feel like a broken record saying that, but if
not here though, right? Because we don't talk about gut health all the time here. So
maybe not. That's true. But if you are new to this conversation, hello and welcome. Your brain and gut are connected to each other through what's called the vagus nerve. And so that means, quite simply, that what you think and what you feel is connected to your gut, right? And vice versa. There's this path that goes, it's like a two-way street back and forth, right? So if you are feeling a sense of or a lack of confidence in yourself, it is connected to your gut, or it can be connected to your gut, right? If your gut is in dysbiosis, you're going to feel more of that lack of confidence, not because of physically how you look. I mean, maybe that is going to be something that you feel, but psychologically or mentally, you're going to feel that lack of confidence because your brain is not getting the nutrients that it needs, because there's some stop up down below of, whatever's going on in there, whatever kind of dysbiosis we have at the moment is not allowing your body to process the nutrients that it needs, which then eventually get, brought up to your brain. And that's what we need in order for our brain health to thrive. So yeah, that's why we feel oftentimes, people with gut dysbiosis, we feel depressed. We feel that brain fog and fatigue. I had all of those things. I felt super depressed. And that's why for me, and I'm sure anyone who's listening who feels this, or connects with me on this level, is you're like, yeah. And so it's harder than hell for me to get out of it, because I'm in this constant state of depression and I don't want to do anything. But you have to kind of just push yourself out in order to start moving towards that state of, I guess what we'll call it is, balance, which again is not the greatest term to use, but getting your gut microbiome back into a state of balance, into a state of healthy balance, where you have both good and bad bacteria, because we need both. We got to do that, because otherwise, if we keep it in a state of dysbiosis, the bad bacteria takes over and it just continues to fester, and it just causes more and more issues, to the point where, sometimes, I mean, not to scare you down the path too far, but I mean, it can manifest into disease, right? Like long-term disease. That's unfortunately what happened with my mom. Do I know that for certain? No, but knowing what I know from what I've done, for myself and also helping clients and through my, endless hours of research and education, when you don't manage your stress and when you don't eat, semi-healthy, we don't have to be eating, carrots and veggies for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Good God, I don't do that. But we have to figure out what is, for lack of a better way, I like to say this, blessing our body. We have to bless our body with what feels good. And that takes time to figure that out. Again, this is something that I didn't wake up and think, wow, that feels good when I eat that. It took me a while to figure out, when I eat X, I feel like poop. When I eat Y, I feel great. Well, I'm going to try and eat more of Y because that makes me feel good, right? Sometimes Y is not, sometimes Y is a packaged or processed thing, okay? And in the moment, that gives me those feel-good endorphins, because that's what it's supposed to do. That's why they market those things to you. So you feel good eating them. I let myself have that. I don't deprive myself of things if they're, even if they're deemed, not the healthiest thing. But I do remind myself of, later on, if in the moment I felt that dopamine hit and later on I feel a crash and burn, or I feel kind of rumbling in my stomach, I remind myself, okay, next time when you have that craving, you have that urge, just remember, go ahead and have it. But if you don't want to feel that feeling, then maybe either don't have it or don't have as much of it, right? So I guess, again, I'm really going out here. I'm just giving you more probably than you need
we always
today.
need just a little more, right?
My life story here, but that's what I'm here for. So yeah, hopefully that helps.
I love that. And I knew there was a psychological connection between that confidence piece, that brain health, and also just like your gut health. And we don't always see that as being a reason we might not be feeling our best. But also, you really got me in the gut when you said, like, hey, this could actually become something more serious. And I know I've been told my whole life, if I don't manage my stress, like, something more serious is going to come. And I hate hearing that, because sometimes I do have a lot of stress, right? And we all do. Like, we all do, yeah. Right? And so knowing how important it is for us to do something about it is really good. We need someone like you to give us that gut punch sometimes, to be like, hey, you got to do something. And I needed to hear that today, even though I'm like, oh, Kelly, get out of here. I invited her here, guys. Yeah. It's my fault. What are some simple steps that someone can take to improve their gut health? Like, if they're thinking like, okay, I need to do something, but this sounds like a lot of work, what are some really simple things that we can do?
Okay, so here's the thing. Yeah, because I love this question, and it's going to come off maybe to some as that is not simple, but this is the number one thing that I recommend, which is to be mindful of you. I don't mean be mindful of like, oh, you shouldn't eat that type thing. I mean, be mindful of just all the thoughts and feelings that run through your body throughout a day. You would be surprised how much energy and effort that takes, but just do it for one day. Because I promise you, you're going to learn so much, what we talked about earlier of like getting to know yourself more. That's the key way to getting to know yourself better, is like thinking about or tuning in, being truly present and hearing what your thoughts are, right? Are they mostly negative throughout the day? I mean, that's something that we've got to address from the get-go, right? Because if you're constantly telling yourself you don't look good, you don't feel good, you're never going to feel good, all the things we can say to ourselves that are just ridiculous, you're going to be in this state for a long, long time. And I don't want that for anybody, because that was me. So truly listening to your body, what you are saying to yourself when you're eating, I would love for you to be conscious of what thoughts, emotions, feelings run through your head as you're eating, as well as, a couple hours after you've eaten, because by that point, the beginning stages of the digestion process have already happened. And, it takes typically 7 to 10 hours for food to process, mostly through the digestive tract. And then it's a whole, usually 30 to 40 hours for it to come out the other end. But maybe that's too much information, but you're welcome.
No, I love how much you talk about poop. I love it so much.
Yeah, but so I think just being aware of like, okay, a couple hours after I ate lunch, I'm feeling pretty good. Or a couple hours after I ate lunch, I'm feeling like I need a nap. Like that meal actually drained me. And then just kind of like start to look and see like, what was it that I was eating? Are there certain things that make me feel better and others that don't? Because you can be, and you are your own best detective. I mean, that's truly how I've gotten myself to where I've been, or to where I am, excuse me, is I have looked at what am I eating? How is it making me feel? And what are some things that I can do mind, body, and soul and nutrition wise to help me make that feel better. Right. And I mean, that's a whole nother episode. That's a whole another conversation, but I would really, it would be one thing that I would recommend that the woman listening does. And that is truly be very intentional in what you're thinking and feeling. Like, notice what that is and maybe jot it down for a day, and just then moving forward, process that. And if you catch yourself being very negative to yourself and you jotted that down and you look back and you're like, wow, who is this person? I don't want to be that way. Start to make a conscious effort to change that, right? Maybe it's the people you're surrounding yourself with. It was for me. I was surrounding myself with, hopefully nobody's name is Nancy, but I'm going to use that name, negative Nancy's left and right. And I got rid of those people from my life. It's like, okay, first step, goodbye. Because I need to be surrounding myself with people who appreciate being with me and who are going to look for the good in life and in the situations that we have at hand. And, just start to look for small ways that you can enhance your life, because then through that, it becomes easier for you to pull yourself out of that depression and that kind of just feeling of, I'm never going to get out of this. I'm never going to heal myself, because again, there's that negative thinking pulls you out of that, starts to pull you out of that, so that you can make other steps towards that natural progression of getting yourself to where you ultimately want to be, which is in a happy, healthier body.
It's interesting. Like, you're right. When you first say it's going to be like a big tip, but it's like a simple tip, right? It's like to really simplify and to just be mindful of what you're doing in every single area of your life. Like, often I think of like mindful, I'm mindful of what I eat, or I'm mindful of what I'm doing. But like, there's so many pieces to that mindfulness puzzle. And that if you were to take a day and sit and write everything out, you probably would see some of these pieces to the puzzle. You're right. You're your best detective. And we often will be like, oh, well, I don't know why this is happening. I was like, well, you ate chicken nuggets for every meal for the last 6 days. Like, maybe, right? Yeah. And it's just interesting to be mindful of these areas, even like you said about the people you're spending time with, or how much work you're doing, or all of these different things. Like, I got to be more mindful of some different areas, especially what's causing the stress, I think, for me.
Yeah. And I would say too, if doing a whole day of that is like, you're like, listen, I got a job to be at. How am I supposed to be doing that? I just can't. Then don't, right? I mean, I feel confident in saying this, that you could probably do it for a couple hours, like the morning or the second half of the afternoon, and get just as much information and be able to move forward from that. So like, it doesn't have to be this long, whole day process. Just do a couple hours, and I guarantee you'll find something in that time frame that will give you the next steps.
Yeah, everybody listening, can you commit to a couple hours of being more mindful with Kelly? And then you can send her a message and be like, girl, this is what I'm thinking. This is what I'm seeing in even just a couple hours. Because I will do it. I'll do it. It'll stress me out a little bit, but it'll be good for my stress to actually just be mindful of some of those things for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, Kelly, thank you. Thanks for the reminder, right? I want to go back a little bit onto the personal side of your story and dive into that moment of truth for that big vision that you have for life, the thing that you've been focusing on. You're so passionate, like watching you light up as you speak. It's like as soon as I ask you a question about gut health, you're just like, bam, I'm in it. And you were like, at one point, like your face was like so close to the camera. I'm like, she is in it. Like she knows. And you're so passionate about it. Like, where did that come from? Can you tell us about that moment when you realized you wanted more for your life and how you started to take some action towards that dream life that you're living now?
Yeah. Woo. Let's see here. Can I compose myself as I say this?
Do you wish you reapplied your deodorant now?
I know. Fan those pits out right now. You know what? Jess, that's such a great question. I do it because, of course, like you said, it lights me up and I love it, but it has, I think the biggest reason I do it is because for so long, I was not me. And this is me, right? Who I am talking to you. This is the me that for about 30 years never got to say her piece, never got to stand in her own, hid behind other people, was afraid of what other people might think if I spoke up or if I stumbled over my words. And I absolutely friggin' I love talking to you. I love talking to women. I love, to your point, I love speaking on stages. It gives me a thrill too. It's the thrill I never could have in my wildest dreams thought I'd be doing this. Growing up from a young age, I practiced being a teacher with my dolls, the typical story. I also wanted to be a singer and regularly danced to music on we had the old school, I don't know if anybody even knows anymore, but we had the fire burning, not gas burning fireplace that had the brick kind of stage, if you will, it's kind of yeah. And that was my stage. And I would get up there, I would crank the music up. My mom was a stay-at-home mom, so she'd be up, making me lunch or doing whatever. And I would be downstairs in our family room, standing on my stage, blasting out to music, dancing, singing, all the things. And that's that comes out in me when I get to speak to women, because I realized that shortly after that time, I told myself that wasn't okay. I conformed to society and dimmed my light. And in the past couple of years, I realized that's no more, because you're here for a reason. You're here to impact people, and people friggin' love seeing my granny style dancing. And so I am lit up every morning that I get to do that. Or today I recorded it and forgot to post it, so maybe it'll get posted today, maybe it won't. But I just love showing up. So I know that didn't even really answer your question, because gut health wise, yeah, I mean, I'm super passionate about gut health, but it all goes together. I'm able to share my passion for gut health because I've lived through it, and I feel passionate enough that if, again, to my point earlier, if I can do it, then anybody can do it. There's no magic pill that's going to get you there. It's you. You are the magic pill. You are the missing piece to that puzzle. Once you figure out what you need to do, and it's through, again, many different steps along the road, but once you figure out your path through finding yourself, through understanding what's going through your mind and how you feel, and several things that we mentioned just previously, along with a whole lot more, then the puzzle pieces start to come together and they start to make sense. And, my journey to healing my gut issues started in 2019, like naturally started in 2019, because prior to that, I'd been doing a whole lot of going to all kinds of doctors and getting the runaround. And yeah, I had H. pylori, SIBO, Candida, still questionable as to whether I had a mold toxicity or not, but I eradicated all of that stuff through naturally healing my body and through taking the time to realize that there's going to be no quick fix in life. It wasn't a quick fix for me to fix my mental state. That took time. And so it's going to take time for your gut health to heal, because your mind has to be in that right state before anything else can happen in the body.
I love that your advice there focuses both on like business and your gut health. It's like exactly the same advice is for both. And we often think, yeah, of course, like I want this right now, or I want to feel good right now. And same thing goes for your business. Like I want my business to boom, or I want to speak on stages and I want to motivate people. But like this stuff takes time. And like we have to put in the work and we have to put in the reps. And that's what you've been doing in like both of these departments. The fact that you've been working on this since 2019, and I know it's still a work in progress. I know you have great gut health now. Like I wish I could cut you open and look in your gut, but can't do that. That's weird. And it's just like to see both aspects of it. There's so much that you've been doing and how you've been showing up over and over again. And I know earlier you said like consistency, you don't really need to be consistent, but like, you know what, you have been, Kelly. Like this is 4 years in the making of you showing up. Maybe it's not every single day, but like you've been putting in a lot of work and a lot of effort to become the version of yourself that is like sitting in front of me right now. And this beautiful version of you that just has been blooming since you stepped into your truth and stepped into who you are. So thank you for sharing that side, and thank you for sharing your story with us today. So can you tell our listeners where they can connect with you online and what they can expect from your podcast?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So you can find me on Instagram. That's mostly where I hang out. So Kelly_Bluth. And I'm also on TikTok. I have a podcast, Listening to Your Gut podcast, where we focus on the mind, body, and soul approach. So really that figurative and literal meaning. So we talk about all the things. Like I will give you some really great tips and resources to help you with gut health things and other ailments in the body. But I also bring on guests, and I also talk about myself, things that deal with the mind, right? Things that deal with like your intuition and what feels good to you, because I think I know all of that is important, right? I've lived it. I breathe it. So yeah, that's what you can find over there. Just a melting pot of a lot of really great stuff that's on that podcast. It comes out every Monday. And then I have a podcast Facebook community that you can join, where there's a whole bunch of things going on in there, but there's some weekly workouts that I do, a weekly Wellness Wednesday topic that changes every week. And then I bring in guests. That platform is constantly evolving, and I'm just, bringing in new things there. So yeah, lots of great ways to connect with me. So feel free to, whatever platform is best for you, please feel free to reach out and connect with me. I would love that.
Yes. And tell Kelly what you found in your biopsy of your mindfulness for yourself. Because she wants to hear it. I know you do.
I want to know.
I know you do.
I want to know that.
I have a few questions that I ask every guest that comes on the podcast. You ready?
Yeah.
Okay.
I am ready.
Yeah. What is your favorite compliment to receive?
Whoa. My favorite compliment to receive is, oh man, thank you.
Oh.
Thank you. Mm-hmm.
Well, thanks for being here. Thank you for being you.
Where's my heart? I appreciate that. Thank you.
What is your favorite thing to do to boost your mood when you're feeling grumpy?
Take a nap.
Yeah. Kelly said she's going to take another nap today.
I think I might. I really want to. Yeah, take a nap, or dance.
Oh, yeah.
When in doubt, move your body.
Yeah, love that. And do you have a song or a quote that boosts your confidence?
Oh, currently there's a song that I have been blasting. It's called Hot Girl, and it's by this like rapper Caitlyn. I just got exposed to her through Spotify. She just came up, and I was like, "Whoa, I love this! This is not what I usually listen to, but woo, it got me a little pumped." So yeah,
I gotta check out some Hot Girl.
Yeah.
I love it. That's awesome. Thank you so much, Kelly, for being here and for sharing your truth and giving us a little insight into our gut health, because I needed that reminder to work on my stress.
Got this, girlfriend. Love you.
I love you so much. Thanks, Kelly. What's up, sis? I am so glad we could hang out today. If you love this episode, send it to a friend or share it on your social media and tag me so I can personally thank you for helping me sprinkle some confidence in the world. And don't forget, you are magic. Let's show the world your shine.